If you've been trying to lower your A1C and nothing seems to work, this video might change everything because one person just dropped their A1C from 10.7% to 5% in just a few months. And no, they didn't go on a crash diet. They didn't give up every carb for life, and they didn't spend hours at the gym. They made 3 simple changes. 3 things that most doctors don't talk about and most people overlook. But these 3 changes, they made all the difference. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those changes were, how they worked, and how you can start applying them to your life right now, no matter your age, weight, or how high your blood sugar's been. Before we go any further, do me a quick favor and hit the subscribe button if you're new here. This channel is called Blood Sugar Blueprint, and every week we bring you clear, realistic advice made for real people, not textbook patients. Now let's get to it. First, let's talk about the numbers. This person started with an A1C of 10.7%. That's dangerously high. For context, anything over 6.5% is considered diabetic. A1Cs in the 9s and 10s often lead to serious complications. Things like nerve damage, kidney issues, and a much higher risk of stroke and heart disease. But in just 5 months, they brought it down to 5%. That's not just a small improvement. That's back in the normal range. So how did they do it? They followed a plan. It wasn't extreme. It wasn't magical. It was intentional. And it involved 3 key changes that we're about to walk through together. Now, before we break each one down, here's what's important. Lowering your A1C fast can be a good thing, but it has to be done safely. Dropping it too quickly without support can lead to side effects, including something called DKA, or diabetic ketoacidosis. This happens when the body tries to burn fat too aggressively without enough insulin support. So everything we're talking about today should be done with medical supervision, especially if you're on medication. That said, the path this person took, it worked, and it's based on smart science, not hype. Let's start with change number 1, and it's the one most people resist at first. They stopped drinking their sugar. I know. It sounds simple, too simple even. But this one shift, cutting out soda, juice, sweet tea, flavored coffee drinks, and even fruit smoothies, had a huge impact. Here's why. When you drink sugar, your blood glucose doesn't rise gradually, it spikes fast. Liquid sugar absorbs in your bloodstream almost instantly. No fiber, no chewing, no buffer, just a surge. That triggers your pancreas to release a huge burst of insulin. And over time, those repeated surges wear your system down. Your body starts fighting back. It becomes insulin resistant. That's when blood sugar stays elevated longer. A1C goes up. And fat storage, especially belly fat, gets worse. But once this person stopped drinking their sugar, everything changed. Their fasting blood glucose started dropping within days. Energy stabilized, hunger improved, and most importantly, they weren't chasing the roller coaster anymore. Even better, they didn't go completely dry. They swapped soda for flavored sparkling water. They used stevia or monk fruit to sweeten tea or coffee. They even made a homemade sports drink with lemon juice, sea salt, and a few drops of stevia. It wasn't about deprivation, it was about substitution. And if there's just one takeaway you act on after watching this video, let it be this: drink water, tea, or coffee, and skip the sugar. That one change alone can lower your daily blood glucose by 30 to 50 points, and over time, significantly lower your A1C. But that wasn't the only thing they changed. The second shift they made was more strategic. And honestly, it's one that most people don't even know is an option. They started using a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. And the results? Game-changing. So what exactly is a CGM and why does it matter? CGM stands for Continuous Glucose Monitor. It's a small wearable device that tracks your blood sugar all day and night. And for someone trying to lower their A1C fast, it's like having a GPS for your metabolism. Before using a CGM, most people only check their blood sugar once or twice a day, maybe with a finger prick in the morning or before a meal. But that doesn't give you the full picture. You're only seeing snapshots, not the whole movie. A CGM changes that. It shows you what your blood sugar is doing in real time. You can see the exact moment your glucose starts to spike after a meal. You can see how a walk after dinner flattens that spike. You can see how stress, sleep, or even just a small snack affect your numbers. And for the person who dropped their A1C from 10.7% to 5%, that level of insight made it so much easier to stay on track. They weren't guessing anymore. When they saw that eating a banana shot their glucose up to 220, they stopped eating bananas for a while. When they noticed that oatmeal caused a slow, steady rise, they learned to pair it with protein or switch to eggs. When they saw their numbers rise overnight after a high-carb dinner, they knew to walk for 10 minutes after the next one. It wasn't about fear, it was about real feedback. And that feedback created confidence. Now here's the really encouraging part. You don't need a CGM to use this strategy. Yes, it helps. But even if you only use a regular glucose meter, if you're testing before and after meals, you can still learn the same patterns. The key is to check your blood sugar right before a meal, 1 hour after, 2 hours after. This gives you a mini glucose curve and shows you exactly how your body responds. Here's what to look for. If your blood sugar spikes more than 30 to 50 points after a meal, that food might not be a great fit, at least not on its own. If it comes back down within 2 hours, your insulin response is probably okay. If it stays high after 2 hours, your body may be struggling to clear the glucose, and that's a sign of insulin resistance. Once you know how your body reacts, you can start experimenting. Try adding more protein to a meal. Swap rice for cauliflower. Try going for a walk after you eat. Small adjustments like these can dramatically improve your response, and over time lower your A1C. So, if change number 1 was about eliminating blood sugar bombs, change number 2 was about getting feedback and making data-driven adjustments. But there's still one more change they made, and this last one is what really pulled everything together. It wasn't a medication. It wasn't a supplement. It was something that happens in your kitchen every single day, and it's the one that gave them the most consistent results, the most energy, and the fewest cravings. So here's the final change they made that helped drop their A1C from 10.7 to 5.0 in a matter of months. They stopped eating carbs by themselves. That's it. Not cutting all carbs, not keto, not extreme. Just never letting carbs sit on the plate alone. And here's why that matters so much. When you eat carbohydrates by themselves, whether that's toast, fruit, rice, pasta, or even so-called healthy cereals, your blood sugar tends to spike higher and faster. That's because there's nothing slowing the absorption of those sugars. But when you pair carbohydrates with protein, fat, or fiber, your body processes the meal much more slowly and evenly. Blood sugar rises more gently. Insulin has time to work, and you avoid that energy crash, the one that makes you tired, foggy, and craving sugar again an hour later. This person started building meals using a simple rule: no naked carbs. That means instead of just a banana in the morning, it became a banana with Greek yogurt or a boiled egg. Instead of white toast with jam, it was sprouted grain toast with avocado and chia seeds. Instead of a bowl of pasta, it was pasta with chicken, spinach, and olive oil. And instead of snacking on crackers, they added hummus, cheese, or nuts. By making this one rule a habit, they kept their blood sugar steady all day long, which meant less insulin resistance, less inflammation, and less strain on the pancreas. And when your glucose stays stable throughout the day, your average blood sugar begins to drop. That's exactly what your A1C is measuring, your average. So the more spikes you can smooth out, the lower your A1C will be over time. And here's the cool part. This doesn't just help numbers on a chart, it helps your life. Fewer blood sugar swings means less fatigue in the afternoon, fewer food cravings, better sleep, more consistent moods. And yes, weight loss becomes a whole lot easier. It wasn't about dieting, it was about changing how meals were structured. And here's something else this person started doing. They made protein the star of every plate. Whether that was chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, tofu, or even high-protein lentils and legumes, every meal began with the protein source first, and then everything else was built around that. This does two things. 1, it forces you to plan meals that are blood sugar friendly. 2, it automatically reduces the amount of starch or sugar you eat without even trying. Because when your plate is 40 to 50% protein and fiber and the carbs are tucked in beside them, your body responds completely differently. Your insulin sensitivity improves, your muscle stays intact, and your hunger starts to regulate itself. This is the kind of eating that works whether you're on medication or not. Whether you're just starting your diabetes journey or have been dealing with it for 10 years. It's sustainable, it's balanced, and it works. Now that we've covered the 3 big changes, cutting liquid sugar, using real-time glucose data, and never eating naked carbs, let's step back and look at how this all fits together in real life. Because these changes didn't just work on paper, they worked in a busy life. A real person with real responsibilities who didn't have hours to spend prepping meals or tracking macros. Lowering your A1C doesn't require perfection, it just takes patterns. This person didn't count every gram of carbs, they didn't give up their favorite meals, and they didn't spend hours in the kitchen prepping food in little containers. They just made the right moves consistently. And here's what a typical day looked like once these 3 changes were in place. Morning routine. They started their day with water, just 1 glass. Not coffee first, not juice, water. This helped flush out overnight glucose buildup, support kidney function, and wake up the digestive system. Then they'd check their blood sugar. If they were using a CGM, they'd look at their overnight graph. If not, it was just a quick finger prick. Then came breakfast, and it followed the protein first rule. A typical breakfast might be 2 eggs, half an avocado, a slice of sprouted grain toast, and black coffee with a splash of unsweetened almond milk. Notice, no juice, no sugary cereal, no breakfast bars. Just balanced whole food. The meal had fat, protein, and fiber, all of which slowed the glucose response and gave them steady energy for hours. That meant no crash at 10 a.m., no cravings for a muffin or pastry mid-morning. Midday routine. For lunch, they kept things simple. This person wasn't trying to impress anyone. They were trying to stay consistent. Lunch often looked like a big salad with grilled chicken, olive oil and vinegar dressing, a few roasted sweet potatoes or lentils for slow-burning carbs, maybe some berries on the side. And here's what they always did after lunch. Even if it was just 10 minutes, they walked. Not a power walk, not a workout, just a short, intentional stroll. This one habit can cut a post-meal glucose spike by 30 to 40%. When you use your muscles, even a little, your body pulls glucose out of the bloodstream without needing insulin. It's one of the most natural, overlooked ways to lower blood sugar. If they were working from home, they walked around the house. If they were out, they walked around the block or a grocery store. That tiny movement was enough to keep their numbers stable and help avoid that late afternoon slump. Evening routine. Dinner was the most flexible meal of the day. Sometimes it was grilled fish with veggies. Sometimes it was a bunless burger with salad. Sometimes it was tacos, but made with lettuce wraps instead of flour tortillas. They didn't stress about perfection, but they always followed the same rhythm. Protein first, carbs paired with fiber, no sugary drinks or desserts. And after dinner, you guessed it, another short walk. It became a nightly routine. A 10-minute walk after eating, sometimes alone, sometimes with a partner, sometimes just pacing inside if the weather was bad. It wasn't about burning calories, it was about training the body to handle glucose efficiently. And this wasn't just about meals, it was about mindset. They tracked their progress, not obsessively, but just one number every day, either fasting blood glucose or their CGM average. Seeing the numbers improve gave them momentum. It turned the process from a struggle into a success story in motion. Because here's the truth, nothing is more motivating than proof. And by following these 3 changes, removing liquid sugar, using glucose feedback, and always combining carbs with protein, they had proof that what they were doing was working. A1C dropping month after month, clothes fitting better, more energy, less anxiety around food, more confidence in their future. So let's step back for a moment. We just walked through a real transformation. Someone went from an A1C of 10.7, dangerously high, to a healthy 5.0 in just a few months. No magic, no gimmicks, no miracle cure. They made 3 consistent changes. 1, they stopped drinking sugar. 2, they used feedback from a CGM or glucose testing to guide their meals. 3, they never ate carbs without pairing them with protein or fiber. These changes didn't just improve their numbers, they changed their life. They had more energy, they were sleeping better. Their mood stabilized, their confidence came back. They weren't afraid of food anymore, they were in control. And you can be too. Because the truth is, you don't have to be perfect to see results. You don't have to cut every carb, count every calorie, or give up every food you love. You just have to be aware. You have to understand how your body works and make small choices over and over that support it. And the best time to start? Right now. You don't have to wait for your next appointment. You don't have to wait until things get worse. You can make your very next meal one that supports lower blood sugar. You can get up after dinner and take a 10-minute walk. You can start tracking your numbers and let that feedback guide your next step. That's what this channel is here for. We're not about shame. We're not about perfection. We're about real tools for real people, especially those over 60 who want to take back control of their health. So if this video helped you, inspired you, or taught you something new, please take a second and hit that subscribe button right now. It's completely free, and it helps us bring you more content like this every single week. And if you've been able to drop your A1C, even just a little, we'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. What worked for you? What didn't? Your experience could help someone else on their journey. Remember, this isn't about chasing perfection. It's about progress. Every step you take to lower your blood sugar, whether it's drinking more water, skipping sugary drinks, or building a better plate, is a step toward more freedom, more energy, and more life. Thanks for watching. Check out the next video on the screen to learn more about your health and how to improve your life.